empty, what could one do? That with an essence cannot be produced. Nagarjuna now turns to the moral dimensions of the extreme positions and their consequences for the Buddhist doctrine of karma, specifically with regard to the consequences for one's own life of one's actions. Non-empty phenomena, such as the opponent wishes to posit, are seen, on analysis, to be static. But practice and action require dependence, change, and a regular relation between one's actions and one's future state. So in the preceding verse, Nagarjuna notes that in a static, non-empty world, we can't even make sense of the possibility of action. He then points out, 25, that even were action possible, in virtue of the impossibility of change and dependence in an essentialist universe, there would be no consequences of those actions. For to be a consequence is to be dependent, hence to be empty, hence from the standpoint of the essentialist whether reificationist or nihilist non-existent.
34. For you, from neither right nor wrong actions would the fruit arise. If the fruit arose from right or wrong actions, according to you, it wouldn't exist. 35. If, for you, a fruit arose from right or wrong actions, then, having arisen from right or wrong actions, how could that fruit be non-empty? The reificationist develops a strict dichotomy between things that exist inherently and things that are completely non-existent. That dichotomy exhausts the ontological domain. But neither possibility for understanding. The nature of practice, the practitioner, or the fruits of practice makes sense of action. If the relevant phenomena are granted inherent existence, their essence precludes development and change. If, on the other hand, they lack essence and hence, for the reifier, are completely non-existent, there literally is no practice, in any sense. But if they are conceived of as empty and hence empirically and conventionally real, yet essenceless and dependent, the possibility and purpose of practice fall out straightforwardly. So it is the reifier, not Nagarjuna, who makes action and soteriology impossible, and Nagarjuna and not the reifier who rescue them from ontological oblivion.
36. If dependent arising is denied, emptiness itself is rejected. This would contradict all of the worldly conventions. Recall the other horn of the dilemma in 24:6. The opponent charged Nagarjuna not only with contradicting fundamental Buddhist tenets, but with contradicting the conventional truth as well. Nagarjuna has responded up to this point to the first charge, turning it back on the opponent. He now does the same with the second. Nagarjuna suggests that to assert the non-emptiness of phenomena and of their interrelations when emptiness is properly understood is not only philosophically deeply confused, but is contradictory to common sense. We can make sense of this argument in the following way. Common sense neither posits nor requires intrinsic reality in phenomena or a real causal nexus. Common sense holds the world to be a network of dependently arisen phenomena. So common sense only makes sense if the world is asserted to be empty. Hence it is the opponent, not Nagarjuna, who disagrees with the conventional truth.
The standpoint of emptiness is hence not at odds with the conventional standpoint, only with a particular philosophical understanding of it that which takes the conventional to be more than merely conventional. What is curious and, from the Buddhist standpoint, sad about the human condition, on this view, is the naturalness and seductiveness of that philosophical perspective. This, of course, is the key to the soteriological character of the text. Reification is the root of grasping and craving and hence of all suffering. And it is perfectly natural, despite its incoherence. By understanding emptiness, Nagarjuna intends one to break this habit and extirpate the root of suffering. But if in doing so one falls into the abyss of nihilism, nothing is achieved. For then action itself is impossible and senseless, and one's realization amounts to nothing. Or again, if one relinquishes the reification of phenomena but reifies emptiness, that issues in a new grasping and craving, the grasping of emptiness and the craving for nirvana and a new round of suffering. Only with the simultaneous realization of the emptiness, but conventional reality, of phenomena and of the emptiness of emptiness, argues Nagarjuna, can suffering be wholly uprooted.
Let us consider now more carefully what it is to say that emptiness itself is empty. The claim, even in the context of Buddhist philosophy, does have a somewhat paradoxical air. For emptiness is, in Mahayana philosophical thought, the ultimate nature of all phenomena. And the distinction between the merely conventional nature of things and their ultimate nature would seem to mark the distinction between the apparent and the real. While it is plausible to say that what is merely apparent is empty of reality, it seems nihilistic to say that what is ultimately real is empty of reality, and as we have seen, the Madhyamaka are quite consciously anti-nihilistic. But again, when we say that a phenomenon is empty, we say, inter alia, that it is impermanent, one that it depends upon conditions and that its identity is dependent upon convention. Do we really want to say of each phenomenon that its emptiness, the fact that it is empty, is itself impermanent, itself dependent on something else, itself dependent upon conventions? It might at least appear that even if all other properties of conventional entities were so, their emptiness would be an eternal, independent, essential fact.
It may be useful to approach the emptiness of emptiness by first asking what it would be to treat emptiness as non-empty. When we say that a phenomenon is empty, we mean that when we try to specify its essence, we come up with nothing. When we look for the substance that underlies the properties, or the bearer of the parts, we find none. When we ask what it is that gives a thing its identity, we stumble not upon ontological facts but upon conventions. For a thing to be non-empty would be for it to have an essence discoverable upon analysis, for it to be a substance independent of its attributes, or a bearer of parts, for its identity to be self-determined by its essence. A non-empty entity can be fully characterized non-relationally. For emptiness to be non-empty would be for it to be a substantial entity, an independent existent, a non-conventional phenomenon. On such a view, emptiness would be entirely distinct from any conventional phenomenon. It would, on such a view, be the object of correct perception, while conventional phenomena would be the objects of delusive perception. While conventional phenomena would be dependent upon conventions, conditions, or the ignorance of obstructed minds, emptiness, on such a view, would be apparent precisely when one sees through those conventions, dispels that ignorance, and overcomes those obstructions.